on Bloomberg.
It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, only on Bloomberg.
When you talk with legislators today, be clear that we're not against data centers. We want them to be better.
Our morning started really early in a really cold, really dark parking lot where we met a group of data center opponents, and we all got on a bus to travel here to Richmond, where they're lobbying their lawmakers for what they would call responsible data center development.
In transportation, there are speed limits, there are safety standards, there are noise limits, and we're here to lobby about an industry in Virginia that is overwhelming us, and there are no laws and standards.
We traveled with one woman, Elena Schlossberg, who's sort of at the center of this fight, and she's been going toe-to-toe with the biggest data center developers for about the past decade.
That's really something I want to message to the legislators, is the history books are being written right now. And the question is, what do you want the history books to say about you? The first year we went, nobody knew about data centers. What's a data center? The next year we went, suddenly people are starting to go, oh, there's maybe something about data centers. Oh, so the Legislative Review Commission report finally came out, and my favorite word was unconstrained. Unconstrained data center development is what is risking our reliable energy, our clean air and clean water, the health and well-being of the state of Virginia.
So we're here in Data Center Alley.
This is Data Center Alley. This is around 20 million square feet of planned data center development. The digital gateway, that looks so beautiful? 23 million square feet of data center development. I mean, look at the size of these buildings. They are massive. And this is not enough, by the way. They've got to build all the transmission, but we don't even have the generation to plug the transmission into.
You can see the substation, the electric infrastructure here.
Yep. It's everywhere.
So here's another data center, here's another data center.
One after the other. More transmission lines, one after the other, substation, one after the other. What we see happening here in Virginia is becoming a national grid problem. It's magical thinking, how you are going to meet this kind of power demand never seen by mankind before. We are at the precipice. And now is the time. There's no more excuses to hold the wealthiest corporations in the world accountable for the energy they need for their business model.
So hyperscalers are the big tech firms like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Some of those types of companies want to build data center campuses that use 5 gigawatts of electricity. That's a huge amount. It's as much as entire cities like Miami or Atlanta. Right now, Virginia, where Data Center Alley is, uses about 5 gigawatts of electricity for all of its data centers. That's a lot, and enough to power about half the homes in the state. So the power company that has to generate and transmit all that power, Dominion Energy, they say that this trend is going to continue, and that data centers in development in its pipeline are going to require another 40 gigawatts. Globally, the picture is the same, just with way bigger numbers. There's 7,000 data centers built or in development across the world, with energy consumption that's expected to top 2,900 terawatt hours annually by 2034. That's almost double what the entire country of India uses each year. A terawatt, by the way, that's 1,000 gigawatts, and a gigawatt is enough to power about 750,000 homes. So the world doesn't currently have enough electricity to meet all of that demand, and that's a problem. In interviews with tech leaders, data center developers, energy companies, they say that there's years-long wait for businesses to connect to the electric grid, and it's also threatening Silicon Valley's efforts to lead the race to develop artificial intelligence.
How did AI change data centers?
The power requirement. As soon as the power is available, it's taken. So as soon as we can get power into a building, AI is all over it.
AI has turbocharged data center demand. It really happened over the last 2 years. I like to think about it as, pre-ChatGPT and post-ChatGPT, right? Pre-ChatGPT, you had strong data center demand that was being driven by technology adoption, right? If you think about what a data center really represents, it represents the foundation for technology adoption. And all of a sudden, ChatGPT came and People saw this technology and were like, wow, this is going to change the world. And we need to figure out how to adopt it. And this particular technology has a unique characteristic, which is it can't run on CPU infrastructure, which is what the world lives on. It's the type of computers that are in your home or in your office today. It has to run on GPU infrastructure, which is kind of a parallel processing type of architecture, obviously most famously known by NVIDIA. And because the power factor of these GPUs is 5x, 10x the power factor of a regular data center CPU rack, it's driven this incredible demand for data center capacity. So I do think it's going to impact sustainability goals over the short term, and we're going to be using a lot more fossil fuels. I think it's kind of inevitable unless someone wants to put a pause button.
This
on
one
this.
is old ring.
But ultimately, it
Starship
feels
Flight
like
7.
the utilities
I mean,
are
it still
committed to
flew.
a long-term renewable future.
Are there parts of data centers that you see as valuable or that you see as necessary? I mean,
100%. And it's not about being anti-data. I like data. I like technology. But to allow it to grow with just no constraints, no guardrails, no accountability. The reality is that the community is the ones that are being asked to sacrifice. And so something has to change.
My vision of the future is mixed. We're at the beginning of in my view, a multi-decade, multi-century engagement with technology. It's the first time, certainly in human experience, that we've had this amount of power at our fingertips, and kind of things are accelerating, right? But I would hope that we don't lose our humanity in that respect, and that we still want to engage with the world beyond a digital screen, beyond a digital experience, that, you know, the real experience is still better than a digital one. And I certainly hope that we as a species make good decisions.
I'm David Weston. Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. We go on the road for a look at what lies behind the headlines of today and what will likely be the headlines tomorrow.
We need more transparency.
Oil and gas is still important.
They said every citizen should be investing in the market.
Accelerate progress in all fields of science.
Watch Wall Street Week right here on Bloomberg. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Haslinda Amin in Bangkok. This is Bloomberg.
Astonishing day for US technology.
It's shaping the region's technology ecosystem.
Asia's biggest tech news and innovation. In case you missed it, on Bloomberg Tech Asia.
I'm in a Nissan Ariya with the latest ProPilot system developed with Wave's AI technology.
Bloomberg NEF says we'll see a robotaxi fleet about 6 million strong on the roads by the next decade. And with many of these projects scheduled to deploy across the world in the coming year, the era of robotaxis may be arriving soon to a city near you. Don't miss Bloomberg Tech Asia every month.
The world of online poker is like a giant casino that never closes, with hundreds of millions of players joining games day or night. Unlike a real poker game, online players can't see who it is they're up against. They might be amateurs, they might be seasoned pros, and some might be computer programs.
All the poker chat rooms are full of people accusing other players of being bots, but no one really knows who's behind them.
Online poker is right now.
There's definitely like a non-human.
The trust is gone. You can't go and play high-stakes online poker anymore and assume that you're playing a fair game.
A poker bot is a computer program that plays the game at the highest level. There's evidence they've been used on major poker sites for a number of years.
This is a kind of dirty secret of online poker.
While some who use them do get caught, it's unclear just how many are getting away with it.
It's kind of off-putting for amateurs,
And without the new flow of players coming into the business, the whole poker economy could fall to pieces. I wanted to find out where poker bots come from, who makes them, and why. I had no idea what to expect.
In the early 2000s, online poker exploded. A critical moment was in 2003, where an accountant from Tennessee called Chris Moneymaker, yes, that's his real name, got to the finals of the World Series of Poker. Unlike his main competitors, his journey started at a qualifying event online. It finished in Vegas with a $2.5 million prize pot. His victory inspired millions around the world to try their luck, just as online poker sites began to proliferate. Throughout this era, players could be confident that their opponents were in fact just people. But it wasn't long until machines started creeping into the online game. The most efficient bots are fully automated. Their software runs in the background on a player's computer, making bets, folding, raising, all without any human input. If it's sophisticated, it can write in a chat box or move the mouse to appear to be less machine and more human. Another way they run is to have an actual person take prompts from the software, which makes it a lot harder for poker sites to detect.
The simplest and most effective way to spot a bot is to see if there are other poker accounts playing in exactly the same way. No two human beings will play the exact same style of poker in a given situation. But if there are two accounts making the same decisions over hundreds and hundreds of hands, then you can be fairly certain that they're bots. The other issue is that almost any detection tool you could use as a poker website to keep bots off your platform, there's a workaround. If a decision is being made in a hand of poker after 2.3 seconds in every single hand, you might assume there's a computer doing that. But then, of course, once that security measure comes in, the bot farmers will program their software to randomize the decision-making time. So it might take 1 second, it might take 10 seconds.
Bots have become so smart, some even know when they need to be a little less smart.
The best poker bots need to be able to operate on a platform without being detected, and that means losing every now and again. Bots will deliberately throw hands, bots will deliberately make occasional bad decisions just to try and fool the people running the website into thinking that they're people.
Policing bots becomes even harder due to the very nature of the game itself. It is vast and complicated, with multiple ways to win in multiple situations.
Well, there's no such thing as perfect poker. As a concept, it can't exist, because poker has a random element and is a subjective decision-making process. Poker is a very cerebral, challenging game. It's not just about the information that you have, it's about the information you don't have.
Take the no-limit version of the most popular poker game, Texas Hold'em. Not only can you bet any amount, you can bet any object, making the possible outcomes theoretically greater than the number of atoms in the universe. Pause the video if you need a minute to think about this. So there's a reason a computer beat Garry Kasparov at chess decades before a machine could compete on a poker table. Deep Blue's 11 billion calculations per second could analyze the best movement on a chessboard, but it couldn't help it behave like a human, essential in poker.
It requires a combination of sort of mathematical processing, abilities to weigh risk and probability, but it also requires the ability to read other human beings and their behavior, the ability to lie convincingly, to bluff.
That's why poker has become so critical for scientists developing neural networks and artificial intelligence. By 2017, researchers at Carnegie Mellon University had finally started to compete with humans, with its software beating a top poker player.
While the academics were researching poker for the purposes of AI, there were commercially minded poker professionals doing the same thing for the purposes of making money in poker markets. When I first started looking at poker bots, I would scroll through these poker forums. There was consistent references to this one operation that everyone called BF Corp, Bot Farm Corporation. Someone who said he was a whistleblower described the scale of the operation, the numerous offices that it had, how they managed to remain undetected. I'd spoken to dozens of people who had worked with this group from Siberia. I suppose it was inevitable that word would get back to them. And sure enough, one day out of the blue, they messaged me saying, we're the neo-pokerists and we hear you want to talk to us. I had no idea what to expect. I've never met a poker botter before. A lot of the online stuff about them made them seem quite menacing. And when I first met them, they showed up in these two SUVs with black tinted windows. But when I sat down with them, they were quite friendly and charming. Bot Farm Corporation started life as a bunch of student kids in a university in Siberia. And they found quite quickly that if they stayed up all night playing poker against Americans on the other side of the world, they could make a bit of money. And eventually, because they were all computer game enthusiasts, they made the decision to see if they could replicate the quality of poker they were playing as people in a piece of software that could play all night, didn't need to sleep, didn't need to eat. I was maybe expecting them to deny that their main source of income was using poker software to play against humans, but they didn't really. They said they were the people behind all the different incarnations of the group, from BF Corporation to NeoLab through to Dplay. We found evidence on the Russian business registry of maybe half a dozen separate legal entities that made up the bot farm operation for their main business, Dplay. You can see dozens of job listings advertising a role in this company that's essentially a gambling entity.
The confirmation of Bot Farm Corporation's existence has sent shockwaves through the online poker community, revealing a far bigger problem than many could believe.
If they were discovered and their accounts were shut down, it was a simple matter for them to start again with a new, clean account. And they adapted this business model over the years so that eventually they were renting out their software to people who ran their own bot farms, kind of like a franchisee system.
The Russian bot makers say they deployed their software on major poker platforms since 2012. It's unclear if there are any other outfits like them. So while it's obvious why players wouldn't want to compete against bots, the question seems to be why the platforms aren't doing more to combat them.
It's definitely in the financial interests of the poker industry to always have tables busy, always have bets being made. And the reality is that poker bots is a simple way to do that. What that means is when someone logs on to their computer, there have to be active games. No one wants to see a bunch of empty tables. So tables have to be constantly churning over, games constantly happening. That's really difficult to do with human beings because most human beings tend to log on at the same time. I was astonished to learn that some poker websites have internal in-house poker bots that they use to keep tables busy. This is a kind of dirty secret of online poker.
While the major platforms haven't been implicated in running their own bots, player confidence is a major issue. Conservative estimates put the number of online poker players at over 100 million people globally, with billions of dollars flowing across digital tables. Without reining in the bots, those numbers are more than likely to decline.
The issue is there's no poker regulator to make sure that bots are kept off the platforms. I think what we're already seeing is poker becoming a lot less fun. When you are playing online and you feel like you might be playing against a machine with no feelings that you have no chance of beating, that's not fun. And when poker stops being fun, people will eventually stop playing it.
I think people are paying attention now to what we're doing in a way that wasn't happening 5 years ago. I think the convergence, not just of the hardware investments, but the AI investments in particular, have been the real watershed for us in helping people understand why we've always believed having these devices be wearable and having sensors and having context in the world around you has been so important. And it's like, oh yeah, of course, now that you realize there's going to be a potentially super intelligent assistant that's operating there, you want it to have, for free, all the context on what you've heard, what you've seen, what you're doing, so it can help you the most out as you go about your day and try to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. So we feel a lot of vindication on that. I think the question is, yeah, will it be us? Will it be a competitor? That depends on our execution and their execution. I have a lot of confidence that the paradigm that we're in right now, which has been stable for a long time, right? The phone that you all have in your pockets now is roughly the same as the phone you had in your pocket 4 or 5 years ago. There's not really a lot of new innovation happening at that scale. There is a lot of things. The phone is the greatest consumer electronic device ever built, and yet there's also a lot of things that we wish it could do better or different. And I think with AI and integrated context with the world around us, that becomes more and more obvious. So I'm very confident that the paradigm will shift in that time frame. And you all know the saying, we get a lot less done in 1 year than we think and a lot more done in a decade. That really is going to be true, I think, when it comes to these shifts.
In case you missed it on Bloomberg Surveillance.
We heard from Restoration Hardware, and the RH CEO was on the earnings call dropping F-bombs. And I imagine a lot of people are having similar issues at the moment trying to sell furniture. You're at a different price point. What's your experience this year?
People have less money. You can say still recovery from the pandemic when it comes to inflationary measures. But then again, our line of business is really about human basic needs. It's about the bunk bed when the kids grow up. It's about the chair and table and so on.
Anne-Marie had one final question.
How are the meatballs? And you're lowering the cost of the meatballs, too.
I am myself, I'm an intellectual vegetarian. I normally say down here I struggle. I love the meatballs. We're actually running today about 40% of our sales is actually vegetables and plant balls. And personally, I don't love the vegetables, but the plant balls is a great exception. But meatballs is part of our legacy, so there you go.
I love your honesty.
Don't miss Bloomberg Surveillance live every weekday.
Tune in to Bloomberg Business Week Daily.
We got to talk crypto.
From the magazine that helps global leaders stay ahead.
What's the conversation around your company?
Bringing you insight on the people, companies, and trends shaping today's complex
I didn't wear a bra to surprise my boyfriend, but when the door opened, it was his wife.
Finance and tech news as it happens.
In that moment, I froze. I had become the other woman without even knowing. The shock hit me so hard I could barely think. I tried to explain I had the wrong person. All I wanted was to escape. But right then, my heel broke. I stumbled and fell into the flower bed. The humiliation burned through me. I wanted to disappear. I scrambled up and ran away. The next morning, anger still weighed on me. As soon as I entered the office, I saw flowers from Mark. I dropped them on the floor in frustration. The outburst finally eased my emotions. But before I could focus on work, Mark's wife Kate suddenly appeared. I thought she would.
Good morning. It's 6 a.m. here in Hong Kong, 7 a.m. in Tokyo, 9 a.m. if you're watching out of Sydney. I'm David Ingles. The top stories this hour. President Trump says tariffs for China are still the plan for November 1st. But speaking aboard Air Force One a short time ago, he called Chinese President Xi Jinping a smart man and a great leader. When asked about a meeting with the Chinese president, Trump says he thinks, quote, we are going to be fine with China. The administration is signaling openness to a deal to quell these fresh trade tensions, while also warning that the recent export controls announced by Beijing are a major barrier. Right. Now, earlier, Beijing responded to Trump's latest tariff threats, warning it will not hesitate to retaliate while urging further talks to resolve these outstanding trade issues. Statement on your screens out of the Commerce Ministry says China is justified in its moves against the U.S. as defensive actions, accusing Washington of introducing new restrictive measures after the September talks that took place in Madrid. Now, the statement warns Beijing will resolutely take corresponding measures to safeguard its legitimate rights and also interests. We're just looking at some early market moves right now, so we are still tilted towards a risk-off session, although some of the recent comments in the last 30 minutes or so out of President Trump and maybe some of the backing off from some officials there is taking some of the edge of what would otherwise, but still could be a very bad session for risk assets right now. Dollar-yen, 2-day look on your screens. The bulk of the move, of course, going into the weekend, and that massive downside taking us from 153 to now about 100, just below 152 on your screens. Another gauge of risk assets, risk appetite, Aussie yen coming up very shortly. Similar look, 2 days as well, big drop, and going into the session today, as you can see, also started to come off ever so slightly the lows of the session. It's well worth noting, of course, it's very early in the Asia Pacific this Monday, so liquidity.
Hey, Lurker, does everything sound okay? I'm just getting it fired up. I'm not going to be here long.
Going into today, we are getting the initial reaction as well across U.S. futures coming up right now, as well as gold, Treasury futures, and we are up about 1% on S&P minis. We're up about 1.3 as it pertains to NASDAQ futures. Gold futures are catching somewhat of a bid. Bond futures are, as you can see, coming off a little bit right now. VIX on your screens coming off a little bit as well towards the downside. Okay, as we go into the Japanese session today as well as the Aussie session, just 2 hours away, of course, over in Tokyo, we are looking at quite substantial downside. Last quote, 2,400 points. I missed the zero there. It is early. 2,400 points to the downside on Osaka futures. We're off 5%. We'll get you guys an update soon. I'll see you in about 28 minutes from now. This is Bloomberg.
Oh, do you want me to turn? I usually turn up the YouTube for overnight. You want?
Very flexible, provide
So this is where I usually leave the
outcomes
YouTube
at a
for
very
overnight.
low
Is
cost
that
to
good?
government.
Along with the ramp up in immigration enforcement has come more demand for core
It's all
civic
set.
services. Not even a year
I'm not
into
gonna
its
hang
second
out
term, the
right
Trump
now.
administration says it has deported more than 400,000
You got a
people,
pop of like
which comes
200,
at a big
300
cost
points
for the
right at
government.
the open. That's crazy.
Earlier this year,
Imagine
Congress
if you were
passed
sitting
the
there
One Big Beautiful Bill,
and you held your
authorizing
order
roughly
overnight.
$170 billion
got-
for immigration and
you'd
border
have got crushed.
operations, with $45 billion designated just for detention capacity expansion.
Yeah, I know.
We need detention facilities. We need beds to put them in place so that they can have
All
their
right.
due process
Hey,
before
man.
they return home.
I'm gonna.
Some 60,000 people are
Yeah,
currently detained.
that's why.
Nearly 90% of them in private facilities.
Yeah.
owned
Oh,
or
okay.
operated
Yeah.
by companies like Core Civic or Geo Group.
You're not in though, right? Yeah. I'll see you at the market open. I'm gonna jack the volume and I'll see you in the morning. You too, brother. You have a good day. Or not? I think it's daytime there. But I'll see you tomorrow for me.
Discussion, leading up to the campaign and the election last year and this year about, getting stronger enforcement on the southwest border and also doing a fair amount of interior enforcement with DHS and turn our customer ICE. We obviously didn't know what the outcome was going to be in the election. But I've always stressed this as CEO to plan well in advance before there is an outcome on our national election, especially like the one we had last year.
Investors moved quickly after the 2024 election. Core Civic stock jumped before President Trump was even sworn in, as Wall Street priced in tighter immigration enforcement and more detention spending. The explosion in ICE detentions may have been good for the business of companies like Core Civic, but it's come with a fair amount of scrutiny and criticism. Margot Schlanger, a University of Michigan law professor, previously served in the Department of Homeland Security in the Obama administration, overseeing civil rights and liberties of detainees.
There is a range of conditions. Some of the detention facilities are better than others, and some of them are more stressed than others and are less good at dealing with the stress of high populations or particularly needy populations.
Why is it that the federal government essentially delegates this or contracts it out to private companies?
Congress made a decision a while back that it didn't want